What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we've got some interesting topics and breakdowns slash discussions for you guys, but before we get into any of that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and jump right into it, and we're talking about more Atlus because I discussed this briefly in my past video talking about 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim coming over to Nintendo Switch and the shift that we're seeing from Atlus. Could we see Persona come over to the platform? Still, the Nintendo Switch does not have a true normal mainline Persona game. You can count Persona 5 Strikers, which we're going to discuss in just a bit, but for the most part, none of the normal mainline Persona games. So could we be seeing that? Could we be seeing more support from Atlus? What is going on? Is there an internal shift to actually make games and make the Switch one of the main platforms for Atlus going forward when it comes to home console development? Now, we know that in the past, Atlus has definitely been more of a PlayStation developer. A lot of their main games have been on the PlayStation platforms. Heck, even a lot of their side games have been on there. They mainly did a lot of their Nintendo damage on the portable systems. Atlus was big on the Nintendo DS and 3DS to some extent, but things kind of went south fast when it comes to Nintendo's home consoles and everything, so they've been a bit silent on there. And with the Nintendo Switch, things have changed quite a bit because I know a lot of you guys are upset when it comes to Persona not coming over to the platform. But what if I told you that in the past 2 years, actually a little bit less than that, but pretty much 2 years at this point, that Atlus has released 5 titles on the Nintendo Switch in the past 2 years, which is really good considering where they were the previous 2 years before that. When it comes to 2020, where they were then at that point and where they are now and where they're going is completely different. It's like a 180. So something tells me, of course, the money talks. Obviously, Atlus sees the Nintendo Switch selling extremely well, so they're going to put more games on there. Sega had their big fallout from the whole situation with their investors and not taking advantage of other systems, a lot of singular platform type of games, and there is an internal shift at Sega and at Atlus to do more multi-platform and also to do more worldwide launches. Those are things that Sega needs to get better at. They are far behind when it comes to major developers in getting multi-platform releases and also getting worldwide launches. And it looks like Sega wants to turn that around. I mean, look, we even had games like Persona 5 Strikers, which was not a worldwide launch, which was just insane for a game as big in terms of the franchise as Persona to not have a worldwide launch, by the way. But anyway, that's beside what we're going to be talking about here. I do think that there is a shift, and we could see that coming up with newer games. That's why I'm not closing the door when it comes to Persona on the Nintendo Switch. So let's talk about this here because there are a number of games here for those that are wondering what those games are on Switch. So back in July of 2020, they released Catherine Full Body on the Nintendo Switch, a fully featured Switch port of the cult hit Catherine Full Body, or Catherine more like it. Then it got the Full Body edition. Then it was brought over to the Nintendo Switch. So that was pretty much the start of Atlus really striking out. And I told you guys, even then I was like, hey, this is the start of something. We got to keep it going here. And then after that, we got Persona 5 Strikers. That was announced and that was released also on the Nintendo Switch 2020 in Japan, but we got that early 2021 when it comes to here, February 23rd to be exact. Now, after Persona 5 Strikers, which is a fantastic game, by the way, these games are great. I think Catherine Full Body is a fantastic game. It's not necessarily for me when it comes to the gameplay, but I think that the game itself is really cool. Persona 5 Strikers is a phenomenal game, and I think that that game is actually underrated when it comes down to it. It's such a really well-crafted game. I think the stigma of maybe it being a Warriors game got to people, and they didn't really see that it was more of an action RPG than it is a Warriors game, but nonetheless, it's still a fantastic game. It's rated really well, 80 plus average on Metacritic, and it's a game that if you can go check it out and pick it up, I would definitely suggest that because it's really good. Then you also had Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster as well, which came out on May 25th. That was multi-platform, PC, PS4, and Switch. And remember, guys, all of this here, which we're going to go over, there is a big theme with every single game that we're going to talk about here, with the exception of the newest game, which we'll get to at the end here. And then that came over once again, May 25th, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD. And then now we have 13 Sentinels, right? 13 Sentinels has been just newly announced. It's coming over to the Nintendo Switch on April 12th here in the West, 14th in Japan. So once again, 4 games. Those are all Sega/Atlus games. Those are all games that were on PlayStation only. All of those were originally PlayStation exclusives, right? Catherine Full Body, well, the original Catherine was 360 and PS3, but the Catherine Full Body was not on the Xbox platform. Then they brought that one over to the Nintendo Switch and didn't bring it to the Xbox platform when it comes down to it. So they only focused on that. Persona 5 Strikers, once again, they did not bring that over to anything. Persona was originally only on PlayStation. Now, Persona 5 Strikers, once again, it's a sequel. It's not a game that started on PlayStation only and then came over to Switch. It was developed in tandem with the PlayStation 4 version and also the PC version of the game. But the franchise originally, where it comes from, was PlayStation only. Shin Megami Tensei 3, the original game, that was only on the PS2. That was a PS2 console exclusive. They brought that over to Nintendo Switch as well. And 13 Sentinels, that was a PlayStation 4 exclusive, only PlayStation. Now that's coming over to the Switch. That's 4 games. And if you include, I said there's 5 games, if you include Shin Megami Tensei 5, which you can't say that was like PlayStation exclusive beforehand, because Shin Megami Tensei 4 and 4 Final were both Nintendo 3DS exclusives, but still, that is still 5 games from Atlus in the past 2 years when it comes to games coming out. 5 titles announced, released, all that within a 2-year span. That is pretty good, and it shows a concerned effort to get games on the Nintendo Switch, because I get it. You know, some people are still mad about Persona. Trust me on that one here, guys. Like, that's something that we're going to talk about, and we've already talked about multiple times, which I still think it's coming. But at the same time, you can't sit here and say that the effort isn't there. And all of these ports are actually pretty good. They're pretty solid ports of these games. We need to find out about 13 Sentinels. SMT5 is one of the greatest games that I've played of all time. So they are bringing quality and good games to the Nintendo Switch platform. Now, once again, I do feel that this can snowball, or it already is snowballing, into Persona on the Nintendo Switch, or more Persona on the Nintendo Switch. I think Persona 4 is something that could come over after it did really well on the PC. I think that could come to PlayStation as well. I think Persona 5 is going to be something that comes over eventually after the SMT5 promotion and hype and sales or die down just a bit, because that is a big game that was very expensive to develop, and they put a lot of money and time into the marketing, and they want that game to not get overshadowed by Persona. So that's my own personal belief. But I feel that after that, next year at some point, I think that we definitely could see, like at an E3 announcement or something like that, that we see Persona 5 on there. It just makes sense to me, right? With Persona 5 Strikers, also with Joker and Super Smash Brothers, we've got stuff like Persona Q on the Nintendo 3DS. We got 2 Persona Q games on the Nintendo 3DS. And of course, the shifting dynamic of so many people buying Nintendo Switch systems, guys. Like, you can't ignore if you're a Japanese developer. I get it. The West is big, obviously PlayStation selling well, Xbox selling well, like I get that, but you can't ignore nearly 100 million people. By the time that you have your next Persona game or whatever the case is, it's gonna be like 120 or 130 million, whatever it is, right? 150 million, who knows where the Switch will be when the next Persona game comes out. Like, there is no way that you could ignore all of that base, especially when a fan base is clamoring for those games. That is legitimately like just like wasting money at this point. There is a bunch of money to be made, and if you don't develop on that system, the most popular system in Japan, the most popular current generation platform right now, if you don't develop on there, you're losing out. And that's why they brought this many games to the Switch in a 2-year span. Even just like about 2-year span, they've announced 5 different games, or have 5 different games here going to April of 2022. But starting back in July with Catherine Full Body. So to me, it makes perfect sense that I see that big shift towards the Nintendo Switch platform. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to develop on other platforms. That doesn't mean that you won't see other games like on PlayStation, or you won't see that. No, nobody's saying that. So please, this video is not saying that. I'm just saying that there is definitely a shift and obviously a very big change of mind when it comes to how they're going to operate with the Nintendo Switch and with some of the Sega and Atlus IP. So that's just my opinion when it comes down to what I'm seeing based off of the facts of what I'm seeing here. So we'll see what happens with Persona after SMT is kind of finished and it does its thing. I still think that game's going to be like a long-term seller, though. I feel people are going to be picking up that game for years to come just because of a cult status. But yeah, I still think that it's going to come over later. I think that they kind of have to with the sales numbers and everything like that. And listen here, guys, like this is not to like inflame any type of console wars or anything like that, but we just have to face the facts at this point. If you're looking at it, the Switch is outselling any other system by like 40 times the amount. Like legitimately, the sales for the Nintendo Switch were 40 times the amount of the PlayStation 5 in Japan recently. They're not shipping any units there. They're shipping more to the US, and I get that, but Atlus and Sega still have a huge base in Japan of customers that buy games. SMT5 just sold 100 and like what, 50,000, almost 147,000 in the first 3 days, not including digital, with limited stock, selling through 80% of that. There's still a lot of customers there, and you have to be able to have a system that's going to have decent sales in order to get more money, because there are gamers there that love the Atlus titles. So it makes sense for them to continue going in when it comes to Switch and all of that. That doesn't mean they have to subtract other platforms that they're already supporting when it comes to stuff like PC or when it comes to PlayStation, but I just think that they need to get Switch more involved, especially with Persona, because there is legitimately hundreds of millions of dollars to be made over the course of however many games that you're going to bring, right? If you bring over 3 games or 4 games, that's just hundreds of millions of dollars that you can make if you put them on the Nintendo Switch, because of the install base and because of the hype when it comes to certain JRPGs and everything, and how people are playing those games. Those are my thoughts on everything here, guys. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, now moving on to the next topic here, guys. We have a little bit of a surprising thing, which I really don't know about what's going on here, and I think that it kind of leads into like another video that I did, which I'm probably going to make a singular video focused on this whole Switch secondary system type of thing and everything. But even in markets where the Nintendo Switch is not known for being dominant, even for where Nintendo is not known for kind of like, you know, just really going out there and beating the competition like a Japan or even like a US when it comes to certain things here and there, right? The UK is now seeing an explosion of the Nintendo Switch platform, maybe due to the other platforms not having enough stock. I'm not really sure, but it seems like it's getting pretty severe. And one of the reasons that I would say is Nintendo's weakest region. Now, Europe in general is very unique and it's big, obviously, and the UK is like kind of still part of like the Europe, but they have their own kind of separate thing since they're like their own kind of country that's right there. So I understand kind of how everything is, but even with the fever of fans, there still is other regions in Europe that might be a little bit more when it comes to Nintendo, like Spain, for example. But the UK had a very surprising sales moment when it comes to Nintendo Switch, and it's interesting just to see how things were going here. So shout outs to Nintendo Everything with the Beat here. They say that thanks to the Black Friday and the upcoming holiday season, the Nintendo Switch just had its biggest sales week ever in the UK. We're hearing that the system's bundle, which contains Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and 3 months of Nintendo Switch Online subscription, was a big hit. However, there are no actual concrete numbers or data at this time. Nintendo might share something for the Black Friday. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So we're going to have to wait on that one. Still, though, the Nintendo Switch outsold the competition. This is the Xbox, PlayStation, all the different versions and variations of all that, with pretty strong sales. According to Game Industry's Christopher Dring, quote, Xbox Series S was in a very distant second place. Now, we also know that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe topped the UK sales charts, showing that there is still much demand for this game and this system. Now, the Nintendo Switch managed to sell very well despite current chip shortages that are going out there. Earlier this month, we heard that the fiscal year through March, Nintendo will be producing 20% fewer Nintendo Switch systems. Also, another thing here, guys, the Nintendo Switch has continued to carry some strong momentum despite being on the market for a number of years now. The system debuted back in 2017 and it's still selling as well as it is, going up on its 5th anniversary and still kind of killing it. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch OLED model is helping out, and of course the chip shortages, there just aren't as much systems for other people to buy. So people see the Switch and all the different games and Mario Kart and they're like, all right, well, let me just pick up this. But like I stated before, this might be something that I want to do a whole separate video on. But to me, when people say, oh, it's just like a secondary system, I think the sales now are overseeding what a secondary system would actually be. Like at this point, when you have almost 100 million and when you have the game sales that they're having, so like the amount of people that are buying Zelda, Mario, Metroid, all this type of stuff, it kind of goes above this whole perception that this is a secondary system only. And like I said, I'll have some more data for you guys. I have some more numbers. I'm putting something together, but honestly, this seems like this is many people's main system. Like this is what they're playing, and maybe something else is a secondary system for them, especially with the lackluster, I would say, sales of some of these bigger games that usually do a lot better. So stuff like NBA or stuff like Madden or stuff like, you know, Call of Duty. I'm pretty sure those are doing great and they're doing good enough, but Nintendo's hitting toe to toe with them in many of these games when it comes to MPD sales. When you see them there, Nintendo's right there in the top of the MPD sales. When you look at Japan, obviously that's the case there, and Nintendo's still selling these games like Mario Kart and all that. So I feel that there are quite a number of people that say, wait a minute here, like Nintendo Switch is my main system that I'm playing, and I've got a lot of games to play, and these other systems, I can't even find them. So this is what I'm going to be playing for right now at this point. So I feel that there's definitely some truth to what I'm saying here, but it was very surprising to see that the UK sales were like this. I thought that the Xbox Series S was going to do a lot better in the UK. I didn't think it was going to be a distant second in the UK. I mean, that's just Microsoft and Sony territory for the most part. So interesting to see that, but the fact that Sony didn't have more, and I know for a fact UK loves the PS5. More people in the UK want a PS5. It's a stock situation there. There's definitely a stock problem in the UK, or pretty much in the whole world, but definitely Sony did not ship as many units to the UK over the Black Friday weekend. They really shipped it a lot for the US because Japan had a problem too. Only 4,000 units sold in Japan for the past week as well. Now we're hearing this. They were a very distant second with the Xbox Series S, so I'm guessing that Sony was obviously behind that, right? So I'm just thinking that Sony just doesn't have the units right now, and it sucks because there's probably a lot more people that want a PlayStation 5 in the UK. Now, I'm not saying that the Switch didn't deserve what it got, or it means that it would have sold less if there was more stock of those. I think it still could have sold just as well. It's just interesting to see that usually in a region that kind of favors more some of the other ones, we're seeing the Switch actually like dominate the competition when it comes down to it in the UK. That's interesting. So what do you guys think about this when it comes to all the different topics here, from Atlus to what's going on with the sales in the Switch UK and everything? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell. We will see you for the next video. Peace.